Okay, so here we are again tonight. Welcome everybody who's here in person and then online, whoever happens to be showing up. Uh, we want to, I want to make sure that we plug one more time before we get on with our speaker for tonight. I want to make sure that you're all aware of this speaker who's coming May the 4th. That's Springfield High School Auditorium. It's Dr. Michael Clapper. He has a new book. He's going to do a book signing. We're really excited. The auditorium holds 800 people. So, you can get a ticket online. They're free. And you can come if you don't have a ticket. But it's nice to know how many people are coming. Come. And then there's also the Vegan Fest the day before that he's going to be at, but that room only holds 50 people. So he'll be there and doing some book signing. You could see him at the Vegan Fest also. Okay, wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. And anybody who wants to pass out some flyers, we've got those big flyers, but we also have little flyers. There's little flyers that are like this size. And if you want to share with people, just see me and I'll give you a few copies of them. Let's see. What else news? Any other news, Scott, that we need to relay to anybody? I guess not. This week, we're fortunate to have Dr. Eric Colgrove, who's a pediatrician who has really taken on lifestyle medicine, um, just hook, line, and sinker, so to speak. Um, I remember it's been several years ago that we met and you got interested and involved. And man, you have been a force pushing forward and getting certified. Congratulations in lifestyle medicine. Um, and we're so happy and proud to be associated with you. And we're looking forward. I love listening to your talks on kids, especially that baby self we baby led weaning. So anyway, I'm going to let you keep talking. I'm done for tonight. Thank you.
All right. I don't want to disappoint. Last time I had some jokes that went over. I think I'll do it again. Well, where do pirates get their hooks from? The secondhand store. All right, all right. Just breaking the ice there. That's all right. Charlie's just getting it. I heard the late laugh. I just just kidding, Charlie. All right. Well, welcome back. I'm Eric Colgrove, pediatrician. Been a pediatrician for 28 years and currently practice at the community health centers of Lane County, Riverstone. Hold on. Hold it. I have some technical difficulty also. I must have hit the wrong button. Hold on 1 second. All right. Back in business. Yeah, so I really enjoy working with this group and honored to be able to present with them. So thank you for coming out today. We'll talk about whatever, but mainly what I want to talk about is children and how we raise a child that's plant-based, because that's a difficult thing when everyone's sort of used to raising someone very traditionally and not thinking about how we can keep our children healthy from the very start and not kind of go down this road of disease and problems. So yeah, if you can go to the next slide. So people ask me, why I'm so passionate about whole food plant-based diet for kids, and really it's simple. It's really understanding that adult disease starts in childhood, and how do you prevent those diseases? Well, you start off very young. Kids need food, and you need to give them the right food, the right way to build their bodies. And so we start off right away. And we used to think that, heart disease was for seniors, for people who were 60 and up. But it was shown way back in the Korean War that heart disease starts much earlier. They did autopsies on these 18-year-old combatants that they did autopsies, found that in their aorta, uh, the major artery of their body, that was streaked with cholesterol, already showing the damage of cholesterol and the early stages of heart disease. And so, later studies showed that looking at 10-year-old autopsies showed the same thing, not to the same degree, but it definitely showed that there was fatty streaks along that aorta. And then as technology got better, it was discovered that even women who are pregnant, that they could tie the mother's cholesterol level to damage in the fetus's aorta. So they could already see this going on even as a fetus. And so this cholesterol was passed down to them, not in a genetic way, but actually in an actual physical cholesterol going into the child's aorta and actually causing some early stages of damage to the aorta. So you could just blows you away, right? It's like, oh my gosh, this cholesterol stuff is really serious business. And this is what's killing the majority of adults in the United States is obviously it's not killing fetuses, it's not killing children, but the disease starts at that young age. It really does. And then we also found out that many other diseases also have their starts in childhood too. Dementia, stroke, type 2 diabetes, even certain cancers start not when you're 60, but when you're younger. So these often are decades long processes that really begin in the high chair. So, all right, next slide. Um, So, in my nearly 3 decades of pediatrics, I've seen how picky eating becomes a roadmap for a lifetime of poor nutrition. And as parents, we hate to hear the whining of our children. Oh, I want this, I want that. So we give in and we say, well, let's give them what they want. They sort of the chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese, what we call the beige diet, the food that's just not the colorful plants that we're used to, but the processed beige crud. And here's the truth: those processed foods hijack our children's brains. They once they it basically triggers a big dopamine hit that makes real whole foods taste more boring by comparison. And so when we give into the crying and give them the beige diet, uh, we're 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 we aren't just ending a tantrum, we're reinforcing their preference for hyper palatable junk. And that's really the issue there. Um, now I've met, school age kids who don't even eat fruit. They want to have their own, this is nature's candy, fruit. Yeah, if you have really ripe, sweet grapes, I think it's or a really beautiful yellow mango that's ripe. There's nothing better. There's no dessert anybody could make, and I challenge anybody to make a dessert that's better than super ripe, sweet, grapes or mangoes or name whatever fruit you love. Um, pineapple. Those things are really nature's candy. We don't need to make those fatty, sugary, junky desserts. Yeah, on special occasions we can do those things, but gee, really kids should be really excited about these fruits. And I think that when we what we need to do is sort of break the cycle of this eating, being picky and eating the junk food, and that stuff turns into basically the standard American diet in a permanent form, this habit of, and that's what leads to all these problems that we see. Next slide. Let me just show you the American Academy of Pediatrics statement or video on how to help with picky eaters. So I'll let you play that one.
Healthy foods is important for your children's growth and development, but it can be downright frustrating to get kids to eat a variety of foods. Here are some tips to help you handle picky eating. How can I help my picky eater explore new foods? Encouraging your toddler's sense of independence is a great way to make him more likely to try new foods. You can let him choose a healthy new food at the grocery store. Have him help prepare food in the kitchen. Let him feed himself and give him choices. Offer a healthy option you know he likes and another that's a new taste. Giving your toddler choices about what and how much he eats will make him feel like an independent little person. Things could get messy, but he'll be proud and excited to try something he helped choose or make.
He copies everything I do, so I make sure he sees me eat my veggies.
If she's not into a food, we just keep trying because she goes through phases with stuff. She's like, no, 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 yes.
We keep an eye on how much milk she drinks during the day. If she's had too much, she won't be hungry at mealtime.
What if my child refuses to eat? It's normal for kids to get upset sometimes during meals. If it feels frustrating, you're not alone. So many parents have been there. Here are some approaches you can try. If your child gets upset about food, try to stay calm. The best reaction is no reaction at all. Don't feel pressured to make a second meal. Tell her that this is the meal you've made for the family and she can eat it or not. Trust that if your child is truly hungry, she'll eat. If not, she can wait until the next meal, and that's okay. It's hard to stay firm and be patient, but it's worth it. By being consistent, you'll help your child become a healthy eater.
We try not to push her bargain. He gets more stubborn under pressure.
Her appetite varies from day to day, and she seems to know how much food she needs. So I try not to worry if she eats a little less or skips a meal.
Our pediatrician says it's my job as a parent to offer healthy meals and snacks, and it's my child's job to decide when and how much to eat.
It can take time and effort to get your children eating a variety of healthy foods, but your patience and calm through all the funny faces, messes, and tantrums will set them up for a lifetime of healthy eating. For more information about healthy habits for your children, visit www.healthychildren.org/growinghealthy.
Video, I use that video all the time in clinic because it just, I hear it so often that, oh, my kid won't eat what we're eating, and really that's just not right. So I have to use that and talk about how this food is not gonna rot if you leave it sit there for a couple hours, and the child's not gonna starve to death if they don't get their favorite beige diet. So I think the key thing is that mealtime is it's about connection. It's not a combat. And so there's a blueprint. Oh, do you want to go to the next page? Yeah, the blueprint really is breastfeeding until from birth to 6 months of age. And then at 6 months of age, or even a little before You could start offering some fortified cereal, and then also some baby-led weaning, uh, which basically just means soft foods that they can grab onto and feed themselves. And you can do that at 6 months. It seems a lot of people in the old days even now are just so fearful of choking, but kids don't choke. They really gag, which is very common for babies. Even on the spoon fed method, they'll do some gagging because they're kind of figuring out how to handle the foods in their mouth and the throat. And so gagging shouldn't scare you. It is scary to a lot of parents at first, but it really is not. It's not bad. So. Um, but by the 12-month mark, they should be enjoying 3 whole food plant-based meals and 2 snacks a day. Um, and then over the first 15 months of life or so, basically start to shift more towards the one menu rule, which basically everybody eats the same food. I mean, the family's not going to eat, pureed foods and baby-led wean, like soft veggies and fruits and that kind of stuff at 6 months of age with the child. You can show them. It's important to show them that, hey, look what we're eating, and basically you want to just introduce that more and more, that we're eating the same things. The child shouldn't be fearing what anyone in the family is eating. Everyone's enjoying it, and really, it goes from there. It goes from showing that babies can eat, that they see what their parents eating, they eat the same thing, and then they get more and more diversity in their foods, and they eat more and more stuff, and it just goes from eating the simple kind of foods to just what the family's eating, and there's no struggle with it. And that struggle at the dinner table is just a huge problem. And that is definitely one of the issues that where it just leads right into standard American diet crap. So, um, and I want to make sure I say that there's no hard and fast rules about feeding. I mean, there's always going to be things that are a little different, whether it's eating over at somebody else's place or eating at a restaurant or doing something a little different one day. There's no hard and fast rules that you've got to do it this way. So, but I do definitely recommend turning off screens, making mealtime stress free. That is key. A lot of times families can be under a lot of stress, and boy, if you're stressed about if your child's going to eat this thing or not, and bribing them and all, just, you don't have to go down that road at all, which is amazing. Some parents wouldn't believe it, and you really don't. But if you make it stress free and enjoyable, and you avoid the separate kids menu, then I think it's much easier. Yeah, next slide. Here's some quick tips for success. So involving them, shopping and cooking together is a huge benefit to getting kids to try different kinds of foods. Basically the curiosity about foods will lead to tasting, and then eventually that leads to eating, trying these things. So much easier when they're somewhat invested in that food. They've shopped with you, they've grown that food, even they've picked that food, they've helped you cook it, or put it in a blender and blend it up. But there's different ways of doing it. So yeah, doing shakes is an easy way to get kids involved and putting different foods in the shake. So there is no forcing or sneaking that should be going on. Another thing I hear a lot of is that, oh, my child doesn't eat any vegetables, but I sneak broccoli into their this or that all the time. Another common mistake I hear a lot of is sneaking foods. But basically, you don't want their kids to mistrust their food. You want them to trust it, and you want them to be invested in it, and to decide, okay, I'm making a shake, but I wonder how many, if you can get them excited about a really important brain and body food like spinach leaves. How many spinach leaves can you put in that shake before you even notice that there's even any spinach in there? And so you can kind of make it a challenge for that child. The How many leaves do you want to put in, and how many you think we can put in there before you even taste anything different? So yeah, there's ways of doing it, getting them involved instead of sneaking it in. Um, I think the other thing that's important is don't give up on kids. Sometimes parents will say, "Well, my child doesn't like sweet potatoes. They spit it out after I gave it to them, and they hate sweet potato." Well, it can take 10 or 15 tries before a child will accept a new food like that. Um, and really, adults taste buds change. It's not only just trying it and being. There's actually a change that goes on in your brain. Charlie, we talked about last time about how you and I didn't like goji berries, and once you buy a package, it's like, well, I'm not going to throw it away. I don't like it, but I'm gonna keep eating it. And once you do, there's something that happens in your brain. I think happens in your brain is it's that your brain says, well, we've got this good source of calories. Why not start accepting it and liking it? And lo and behold, once you get to the bottom of the bag, you're like, I love these things. I'm going to buy me another bag. And I love goji berries now. I didn't like them at all at first. Goji berries, I don't know if you guys know, are just a really healthy antioxidant filled berry that is delicious, although it might not be right away. Yeah. Let's see. So, anyways, the point of that is don't give up. Keep giving it to them. Their brains probably will change. I also like to explain to kids, hey, there are a lot of foods that you're not going to like right away, but your taste buds change over time, and really explaining that to them that it's not a bad thing if you don't like it right away, but you're probably someday you will like it a lot more. And the more you try it, the more you will like it. So I like to just be really honest and open with kids and and talk about that. Um, and then there's the WWBE rule, the what would Batman eat? So if you have broccoli, but the child's saying I want some French fries, you say, well, think about it, little Johnny. What would Batman or whatever hero, choose your whatever hero you're thinking of. What would Batman want? Would they want to eat French fries, or would they want to eat something like broccoli, which would give them a lot of extra strength and health? So you can definitely use things that will get the kids' interest and get their imagination going. Next slide. Oh, this one is the milk myth. Oh, the milk myth. Yes, very strong one that's gone for decades and decades and well over a century. And the milk industry has just been so in has gotten their hands into our government's uh, business about trying to sell more of their product, which is milk, the breast milk of a cow. I mean, it's the breast milk of a cow. Are we supposed to really be drinking? Do any uh, mammals drink the breast milk of a different species? Even their same species after weaning age, which in humans it's age 3 or 4. Do we drink breast milk after age 3 or 4? Not really, right? I hope not. I don't know. I've known some kids that did, but no, I think we're naturally 2/3 of the planet naturally gets lactose intolerant, and that's just because we don't need it. We don't need it anymore. We don't need to digest lactose anymore. Northern Europeans especially are good at digesting lactose for a long time, and that's where we probably get a lot of our genes from in this part of society is for white people anyways. Let's see. Cow's milk has been marketed to us, but it's really linked to weaker bones. And you've been told all your lives it's linked to stronger bones, but it's not. It's linked to, the studies show that it's linked to weaker bones. And um, it seems like some increased cancer risk. And really that's not what you need. I think what people are looking for is that extra calcium, and then calcium is important. So we definitely want to promote calcium. Calcium is found in a whole food plant-based diet, with greens and beans. A recent study showed that it's just very recent that American vegans are getting more higher risk for colon cancer. And the thought is that this is because they aren't eating enough calcium. That for some reason, dietary calcium decreases the risk of colon cancer. So yeah, we're not eating enough calcium. I think that's true. I think over time, our population in general has been eating less calcium. Calcium is important, especially for kids. So I definitely recommend calcium, and definitely recommend for kids eating those beans and greens, tofu. I also think that's a good idea to get calcium from like a plant-based milk source, like soy milk. Soy milk. So I recommend for kids that are after 1 year of age or after weaning from breast milk, going to soy milk and doing the soy milk like 1 or 2 cups a day, really up till high school. And it seems like a lot to a lot of people think, well, I don't need any kind of milk after a certain age, but I think it's a good idea. I think we're laying down our strongest bone. I think especially for older girls, young women, it's kind of your last time that you're really laying down a lot of bone. It's a good idea to, I think, get a good source of calcium. So eating those plant-based sources of calcium are important, but also getting some extra through some supplemented soy milk is a good idea too. Let's go to that next slide. All right, so this is another video. This one's on growth and nutrient intakes of children on plant-based diets.
As I covered in my last video, the American Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics considers plant-based diets suitable for pregnancy, as well as during lactation, infancy, and childhood, when they are well planned. So what goes into planning a well-balanced plant-based diet for infants and kids? For infants, breast milk is the basis of nutrition, consisting not only of critical nutrients, but also immune-boosting compounds providing both short and long-term benefits. The World Health Organization recommends breastfeeding exclusively for the first 6 months of life and continuing with the introduction of complementary foods. What do we know about the breast milk composition of plant-based moms? Vegetarian and vegan mothers provide breast milk with comparable nutritional value, with a couple important caveats. In a direct comparison of breast milk from omnivore and vegetarian or vegan moms, the notable difference was lower DHA, the long-chain omega-3, in the milk from plant-based moms, due to their avoiding fish, which is probably a good thing given how contaminated the aquatic food chain is. Thankfully, ensuring proper supplementation with pollutant-free sources can bridge this gap, just like when there's proper supplementation with vitamin B12. So, provided that women are eating enough to cover their nutritional requirements and supplementing with DHA and vitamin B12, vegan moms can produce nutritionally similar milk. But what about case reports like this, where an infant on a vegan diet is failing to thrive? Or this, These case reports highlight the importance of good nutrition during this period of life of extremely rapid growth. By around 6 months of age, solid food should be introduced. By that age, breast milk or formula alone is not sufficient to meet the nutritional needs of infants. In the first case study, the infant was exclusively breastfed for 10 months and then was given a nutritionally insufficient rice-based drink. In the second case report, the infant did not receive vitamin D supplementation, which is recommended for all children in early life. Breast milk should be continued on demand until the child is at least 1 year old. Formula is also an option for women who cannot breastfeed. The Veg Plate Junior, a guide put together to help with dietary planning for plant-based kids, has a helpful visual and a more detailed table for infants who have started consuming complementary foods. And finally, as we've highlighted before, raw diets are not appropriate to meet the nutritional needs of infants and children. So what about nutrient status and growth in vegan children? First, caution must be applied to some populations defined as vegan, but who may follow diets that refuse supplementation. This is where you can get the impression for some experts that vegan diets are deficient and harmful. But the current literature suggests that plant-based diets using supplementation are likely to provide the recommended amounts of critical nutrients to allow normal progression of height and weight in children and can be beneficial. There is reason to assume that vegans today may be planning their diets more adequately than vegans in the past, as this way of eating has been adopted in the general population rather than existing solely in fringe groups. And, lucky for us, there is a new set of studies aimed at tackling this very question. What are the associations between the modern practice of vegetarian and vegan diets in children and adolescents and health? Enter the Veggie study, the vegetarian and vegan children study of German kids. For the 1 to 3 year olds eating plant-based in the Veggie study, how did their growth compare to their omnivorous peers? Overall, vegan, vegetarian, and omnivorous kids did not significantly differ. This is in line with other studies. 1 to 3 year old veg kids tend to be slightly smaller and lighter, but within the normal range, or have no differences on average compared to omni kids. When the researchers assessed micronutrients and fatty acids, they noted special focus should be paid to critical nutrients like vitamin D, iodine, and DHA for all children, regardless of their diet, with extra attention on riboflavin, vitamin B12, calcium, and iron for veg kids. For a toddler, intake of riboflavin or vitamin B2 should be around 500 micrograms per day. The veg kids were short by about 40 to 70 micrograms. Luckily, there are an abundant variety of plant-based sources like nuts, legumes, and fortified plant-based milks. For example, if your toddler drinks a cup of fortified soy milk, they have already met the 500 microgram recommended intake. For calcium, great plant sources include dark green vegetables like kale, bok choy, and broccoli, tofu, almonds, and calcium-fortified non-dairy beverages like soy milk. What about the older veggie kids, aged 6 to 18? Although iron intake was low in the toddler group, it was higher in the older veg children, surpassing the omnivore kids. There was no elevated risk for iron deficiency in the veg kids. The higher intake of iron in the veg group may have helped compensate for the lower bioavailability of iron from plant foods. The kids in this group were also more likely to take supplements. Yet, in another recent study, this one of 5 to 10-year-old Polish kids with adequate reported iron intakes, about 8% had mild or moderate hemoglobin deficiency. Regardless of diet, about 3% of 1 to 2-year-olds in the United States have iron deficiency anemia. And given its consequences for young children, prevention is a top priority. For adolescent and young adult females, iron deficiency anemia is around 6%, and menstruation increases this risk. It's worth paying special attention to include iron-rich foods at most meals, and to give a little boost of iron absorption, combine with vitamin C-rich foods. What else did we learn about the older veggie kids? BMI did not differ across groups. They were a pretty healthy bunch. The plant-based kids have been veg for 4 to 5 years, and most vegan kids took supplements, in particular B12, as they absolutely should. Hopefully the 12% who weren't were eating sufficient amounts of B12 fortified foods, as well as vitamin D. One way the groups did differ was that the vegan kids had significantly lower LDL cholesterol compared to the vegetarian and omnivorous kids. And given that atherosclerosis, our number one killer, starts in childhood, and dietary habits track into adulthood, plant-based diets in childhood could ultimately improve the cardiometabolic health of adults, as well as potentially help prevent obesity, which often persists into adulthood.
So we heard that plant-based diets can be safe and healthy for children as long as they're well planned and provides the adequate nutrients. And really planning out your food for your children should be really an important job of no matter what kind of eating style you do, because there's a lot of anemia, and anemia causes you to not be able to carry as much blood flow to the brain. And so you get more problems with development because of lack of blood flow to the brain from less blood cells in your blood. And omega-3 fatty acids, another thing that's very important to the brain and the eyes, is important to make sure we get plenty of. Here's things that we can supplement, or foods that contain these things that your body can utilize the foods and make these important substances need to be thought about. And so the big three to monitor, especially in kids that are vegetarian or vegan, is calcium, vitamin B12, and vitamin D. So these are the three that are really important, but obviously iron is one, the iodine is important, omega-3 fatty acids are important. Those last three are important for all kids, but particularly these three, the calcium, vitamin B12, and vitamin D, are going to be really important especially for vegan children that aren't drinking milk, especially. So, but yeah, plant-based milks do typically are fortified in these things. So, but you have to check. Don't just assume. You've got to check. Look at the ingredients. Look to see how much it's fortified with, and if that's gonna do it. If you take if your child takes a couple of cups of that milk, are they gonna get plenty of vitamin D and calcium and B12 if they're not getting it from other sources? And then thinking about the different, you all know the 5 essential food groups: the whole grains, the legumes, the nuts and seeds, fruits and vegetables. This is where we get most of our nutrients, right? Well, other kids are not getting those things, but I think that every parent needs to be aware that the combination of these foods are going to give us what our children need. You don't need meat to get those things. Meat can be helpful sometimes, and sometimes I have kids eat some meat if they're really anemic sometimes, or the parents really believe that meat's super helpful. Then I'll completely back that. I don't try to steer people away from meat, but I tell them the science that's behind it. That here's why it's not the best source of protein and the best food for you. So I'll talk to them about that. I wonder if you can go to the next slide then, Ed. Okay. So now we look at two charts, and I don't know if you can pull up those charts. You go to the next slide. Yeah, the next slide. Yeah, there's two charts. One that shows, and I don't want you to look at all the numbers. Oh, that's not the chart. Where is that? Yeah, So here's looking at the different types of nutrients that are important. So the recommended daily allowances, the RDA, that is set by the government to say that you need to eat this much to be healthy. So there's a list in this document, and you can get these documents if you email me. I'll put my email up there later. But it basically goes through all of the different. You can just kind of scroll down and see all the different nutrients and even fiber, which is not classically a nutrient, but how much fiber we need, fat requirements. Yeah, DHA, all this stuff. So this really goes through all the what we need at different ages, because it's all, adult physicians are dealing with people that need basically similar kind of requirements, which the requirements do change by age. After a certain period of time, your body becomes less good at digesting things uh, like vitamin B12, and you need more of it, and protein too. You need more protein. So there are things that will change. But the next table, if you can go to that one, this looks at where do you find those nutrient sources, and so it tells you like how much you need to get your sources. So these are references that I can send you all if you need it. Yeah, again, if you can just kind of scroll down, but it kind of compares, how you would get that nutrient. Here's vitamin C, a half a cup of red bell pepper is the same as one small baked potato, or half a cup of raspberries. Here's calcium, where you can get that from, and what's comparable yogurts versus cheeses, and how much is in each of these kind of foods. How much is in tofu? And not all of tofu, by the way, is a great source of calcium. So they say certain kinds of tofu are set. What do they say, Scott? It's do you remember what they say? Tofu is set. The ones that have calcium are set a certain way, but you can look on the panel, the side panel, the back panel, on how much calcium's in there. But they it's a calcium set tofu, and so that those tofus have more calcium. And let's see, I don't want you to get lost in the number, so let's just go on to the next slide, because I wonder if you could transfer back over. But I can get those to you. That's not something I really wanted to spend a lot of time on. I just wanted to let you know those are out there, and we've got certain, for people who really want to know the numbers and know how much food to give your child, or whatever your age is. It can be helpful to have some comparisons and know how much foods you need to get, so you can plan. All right. Well, finally, let's talk about how your baby is fed. I mean, spoon feeding is convenient, but it makes it hard for babies to learn when they're full. So your baby will show you signs of being full, but it's much easier when they're actually handling the food themselves and feeding themselves, than when you've got a spoon coming in your face over and over and over, and you're less likely to show the signs of being full. So it also gives kids a sense of autonomy. Here they are feeding themselves. You can put a strawberry and a wedge of sweet potato, and they can decide which food they want to eat. Maybe they don't want to eat one of the foods, and one of the foods they do want to eat, or maybe neither of the foods. Maybe they're full. So it gives them more of an autonomy. They don't have that spoon going in their face. And it turns eating into exploration, which is what you want. You want them to really enjoy it, and you want them to explore different flavors and get adventurous and really make it an exploration of food, of gastronomy. Can you imagine your 6-month-old being a gastronomist, exploring the types of foods? I think what I've come up to, some people are really like hardcore baby-led weaners where they let their babies eat all their own foods. And some people know only, especially traditionally, only use a spoon and purees for months, typically for 6 months until they're 1 or something. But I've kind of come about it to where I think it's a good idea to have a balance of both. I think that it is important to have some cereal that is fortified with iron, because it's a wonderful source of iron, and they're not going to be getting a lot of iron in other places. They just don't eat greens, and of course they're not eating meats, and they're not they're just not getting a big source of iron. So I do think iron is really important. Once you're 6 months old, you've sort of run out of the iron supply that you've got from your mother that she's passed to you in the womb. There's a certain supply that she has passed to the child, but by 4 to 6 months of age, that starts really going down to very low levels, and you need to get that somewhere else. And that somewhere else is through your diet, and the best place is really fortified cereals. So those cereals, like those baby Gerber oatmeal and that kind of stuff, it just comes in a powder form, and you add breast milk or formula to it, and then you can feed your child the cereals with the iron in it. But yeah, I think baby-led weaning teaches babies to recognize fullness. It turns eating into a sensory exploration. It fosters independence. I think it's just really important. I'm going to show you a video next about that. So I wonder if we can go to the next slide and go to that video, Ed. And I'm going to play the whole video instead of stopping at 3:28 or whatever it might say, but just play the whole video first.
Veins and makes poor circulation disappear without relying on endless pills.
Thing I recently learned about too was making some of these. Should I wait for this to be done? Yeah. Okay. One thing I found out recently is that these foods that are great for kids tend to be pretty slippery. Some of them, like avocado, if you can imagine. Basically, babies need an extra source of fat. They need much more fat in their diet than we do. We eat, like 10% fat in our 10% of our calories are fat. Babies are eating more than 50% fat. So a lot of their like breast milk has a lot of fat in it. But how do you get them healthy forms of fat? You don't shave off, your roast and give them a bunch of animal fat. That's horrible for them. That's how you land yourself into disease starting early. You want to give them avocado, and how would you give a baby avocado? Well, you cut it in slices, but then yeah, it's very slippery. And what I learned was that you can take hemp seed hearts or something like that. You guys know what hemp seed hearts are? Those are wonderful. You can just pile them up on your little cutting board, and then take the avocado slice and roll it in the hemp seed, and then it's suddenly much more easy to grab, and it's just so healthy. Tremendous source of protein. It's got omega-3 fats, the hemp seed hearts, and these are things that your brain and eyes need for them to develop properly. Is the omega-3, and so that is, I think, one of the most awesome first foods you can give a child is avocado rolled with some hemp seed hearts. And the other thing about first foods, my preference is not to give too many fruits at first, because I like to sort of introduce blender foods earlier on. So I'm talking about the vegetables, the wedges of potato. Yes, carrots can be given to babies, believe it or not, to 6-month-old babies. How do you do that? You've got to cook it and make it soft. You cannot give a baby any hard fruit or hard vegetable. You've got to cook these things. And once that carrot is cooked, it's all good. You can let the child just gnaw on that, and it'll mush up. And those blander tasting foods, they'll get that in their brain. They won't have, if you give a child orange right away, it's so strong that I'm afraid that they're gonna kind of not be as excited about the blander tasting things, the vegetables. So if you can get them going on some vegetables, some blander foods at first, I think it's a good idea. So let's do that. Any questions about this stuff? And I haven't brought up questions the whole time. I'm sorry. I should have been asking you if you guys have any questions. Yes.
So I haven't mentioned much about beans or lentils, the legumes.
Yes.
They're probably small enough that they're not going to choke a child that age. Lentils particularly, but beans, you have to mash them. Can you give them as whole beans, would you say?
Yeah, you want to. So the question is about beans and lentils. I think it's a great question because there pretty much is no better food in the universe than beans and lentils, because that's like your complete food almost right there. And what you want to do is cook them and then make sure before you give them to your child that you can mash them between your fingers so they're really soft. But it's really not a chokeable thing. They're very good at being able to manage the beans and lentils. Yeah, it was one of my concerns at first too. It's a great question. What other foods you guys concerned about maybe giving?
Killed meatballs, falafel in my mind.
We're not talking about falafels. Thank you. I usually don't show this part of that end part of the video because it's stuff that I don't really encourage people to do, like meatballs and that kind of stuff. It's fine if that's what families are into doing. I think it's a perfectly fine. I like the idea of grabbing a falafel and munching on it. I think it's a great idea, Charlie. A falafel ball. What was the other thing where they mentioned like strips of chicken? There's no reason to give kids chicken. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. I really liked the foods that they were offering there, and I know some parents really like to give like finger foods, like puffs and other things that dissolve in their mouth.
Yeah. It's convenient kind of foods that I think a lot of times people are using those because they don't have to worry about choking and how it dissolves in the mouth. So I think it's really marketed for parents of the current generation who is much more concerned about choking and that kind of stuff. Studies have shown very, very clearly that baby-led weaning does not lead to more choking. So, you have to be there, and especially when they're first getting used to it. No matter what, in that 6 to 12 months of age, you really want to be right there with your child. If your child starts choking, that'd be a problem. But if they start choking, you don't want to pick them up right away. You're not choking, but if they start gagging, it looks like they're choking, and you're fearful. You don't want to pick them up right away because that can actually kind of alert. Yeah, it can kind of surprise them, and they can actually inhale that then and make a choking episode. But what they're doing is they're gagging. They're protecting their airway. And their gag reflex is much higher up in the throat than ours is. And so they're basically, they're pushing that button, that gag reflex button, which gets less sensitive over time. The more you expose, even, I hear people who have like a really sensitive gag reflex. And what I tell them is to gag yourself over and over by brushing your tongue. And this is exactly what I did and figured out on myself, is that if I just make myself gag every time I brush my tongue and just kind of do a little bit deeper and a little deeper, my gag reflex has totally gone away over the years. So people think that, once you have a gag reflex, it's there forever, that you can't affect it. Well, that's not true at all. And I've just had that experience myself. So, but babies, over time, their gag reflex calms down just because the brain mellows out, and it seems to be deeper. I don't know if it actually physically moves. I think it's just that you have to get down deeper to really elicit a gag reflex later after the gag reflex calms down. Let's see. Yeah, next slide. Get back on that. Oh, just my final thought is the greatest gift you can give to your child is the gift of really a healthy foundation for life. And there's nothing better. You know, if you can look, I look forward to a future where old age is not tied to disease and death. It's really they live a healthy. If you look at the lives of people in the blue zones, they live a healthy, happy life till they're very old. I mean, these 100-year-old people are happy and productive and social, and this is what we all want. And so, yeah, I want to be one of those people like in Okinawa who are really just enjoying life till the end, and then they drop dead one day, and that's kind of how we all want to go. Yeah, what do you have, Ed? Oh, yes. Thank you. So online, I have a 13-month-old, and I'm starting to play with spices and seasonings like cinnamon. How do you suggest adding seasoning, and which seasonings do you suggest? My son loves beans mushed with things, but often throws the softened beans after tasting them. Yeah, beans are not really tasty unless you spice them. I think you have to be really careful about salt, and really salt and sugar in foods should be very little. I think that salt and sugar can add a lot of flavor, salt and sweetener. But I think that and when I say sweetener, what I really mean is dates. You take dates, you chop them up, and you put them in your cooking, and that's how you sweeten food. That's what I think of as sweetener. So I don't think of using, some kind of artificial sweetener. I'm talking about using something that sweetens your food, which is dates. As far as other seasonings, I do think it's good. It's you want to start off slow and build up, but I think they're totally healthy. Seasonings are great. They're the thing of life. And yes, I wouldn't want to eat a plain bean either, really. So I don't know how many of you guys eat, just take a can of beans and dump them and eat them like that. That's not really the way to do it. So I agree. I think doing some spice with it, the way I like to make beans is very simple. It's just I'll stew up some onion, put some chopped up tomato and stew those with the onion, and then add some kind of spice like a little bit of curry. Uh, I like the idea of doing cinnamon or some other kind of. There's all kinds of spices. I think you can play with them. I don't think there's any that you've got to be careful of. I think you want to go slow and build from there. But curry can be a very strong, spicy spice, so you got to be careful with it. For my wife and I, that's what we like doing is adding some plant milk and some curry to our beans, and then cooking those beans in that wonderful stew. All right. Yes.
I did a quick chat GPT search.
Yes.
Spices for 13-year-olds. So you can see
Spices
there's
for 13-year-olds?
for 13-month-old.
Spices for 13-month-olds. You did a chat GPT. Oh, there's all kinds of things you do. Cinnamon or nutmeg or ginger, garlic. I definitely think garlic is important. Onion powder, onions, and turmeric, basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, dill, parsley, cumin, paprika. Oh, there's all kinds of things. But being cautious with spicy foods, like cayenne, yeah, and salt, of course, salt and all that. Yeah. Thanks, Charlie. All right, skipping back, just for you online, you missed it, but Charlie was skipping back to a seat, and that was That was cute. I wish I had a little video of it and play it over and over. All right. Um, so I'm kind of curious about what your experiences are. What is there? Tell me if you've had any experiences that are different than what I'm proposing here today, and just any other thoughts you guys had, or yeah, particularly thinking about experiences or things that you would want to do differently. Anything there that you can think of? Yes, ma'am.
You can go first. I actually.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking back to when my grandkids were really little. And Jerry Seinfeld's wife published a cookbook called Deceptively Delicious, because it was all about hiding the food. So you don't think your kids would eat. And so it would be hiding cauliflower and broccoli and creating delicious meals that they didn't know that it was vegetables.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a thing back then.
Yeah.
Now these grandkids of mine are 16 and 7, or going on 18.
Yes.
So over time, though, my one grandson, they grew up with a lot of different foods. So it wasn't really something we had to play around with.
Yeah.
But one of the things I did, I'm thinking I was a bad nana, because what I did is I was famous for my everything but the kitchen sink mac and cheese. And what I did was I wanted them to get more vegetables. And so I made a really beautiful creamy cheesy mac and cheese, which is horrible for them to be eating. But then I dumped in all kinds of vegetables. So it was very colorful and lots of veggies in it. So that was my way of thinking I was doing a good thing, but that it was with the beige product.
Yeah, no, but it's better than just the beige, and also this idea of not hiding it, but making the vegetables tasty. I think it's super important. Why do kids reject their vegetables? Well, it's because either the parents aren't eating the vegetables themselves, or they're just they're not made right. People boil the vegetable and give it to their kid, and that's it. They actually like spice it. Other than that, people think of salt and pepper as spice. There's more to it. Yeah, I think all of the things that Charlie brought up on the ChatGPT thing is good. Yeah, I'm thinking about curry. It is a very strong spice. So yeah, probably want to use some of the other ones first. There's so many out there that you can make some good stuff, but really, it shouldn't. I don't even really like the idea of recipes for like everything's got to be a recipe. You should make a tasty food and experiment with different spices and foods and make these delicious stews yourself, but in a very simple way. We should all be eating more simply, but tasty. I love what I eat. It's just very, very simple but delicious. Yeah.
So I used to work in a preschool that was fairly international. We had a lot of European parents. So we were in a college town. And so I was in the infant room 6 weeks to 2 years, 24 months. And every day at lunch, it smelled like a restaurant, because their parents cooked dinner and put it on a plate and sat their child at the table with them, and they all ate together. They did none of the finger foods, none of all of our American parents had the little packages of the melties. And these parents were like, no, they eat with us. It's just what we eat. And it was absolutely amazing. These kids would eat anything. Nothing was scary.
These were the international.
These were the international kids, international infants, just eating everything.
Yes, non-international kids are much more picky.
Right.
So the comments about these kids that are growing up in different cultures tend to eat exactly what their family eats. They're expected to eat what their family eats. They don't have anything special. They don't have all the little, fancy melty type of foods. And that is definitely the way I think these cultures should raise their kids. We should look at these cultures and do the same thing. This is exactly the experience with my wife. My wife who grew up in Africa in a small village in Kenya. And she was like, yeah, there was no special foods. It was just people ate what the family was served. It was nothing different. So
And that was something else too, that they ate together. And
Yes.
so when they were saying that, oh yeah, you need to watch your child while they're eating these foods. I feel like that's something we do in the States, because I feel like we should eat with kids forever.
Yeah.
You eat with a 13-year-old, you should eat with your 18-year-old, like we
yes.
should share food together and yeah.
So
it's
we
just-
should share food together, absolutely, 100%. This should not be just an infant toddler thing. It should be something that just goes on and on. I totally 100% agree. And this is the connection that, food, when you hear the word companion, what does that mean? It means that you're sharing food, you're sharing literally with bread with the person. It means with bread. And that's what we do, is that we connect with people over food. It should not be stressful. It should be a joyful thing where the family is together and laughing and eating together. And it's just they're all doing the same thing together. But this is the bonding time, no matter what your age is. I 100% agree. I love that comment. Yeah. What about any other thoughts or experiences? Yeah, I think other cultures have it so much better, so much more right than we have it in our culture here. Yeah. No, yeah, Charlie.
So, spices, they were great in teaching my grandkids how to eat kale. I gave our grandkids kale. They were about 8 years old, I believe. And they said, "Ooh, Grandpa, this is terrible." And I thought I had given up. I had lost my chance to teach my kids how to eat healthy kale.
Yeah.
And then the next day we pulled kale out of the garden. I said, "We need to make kale chips. I need you to help me." So they pulled the kale off the stem, the leaves. And then I said, "I usually put spice on this when we make kale chips. I know you don't like kale, that's fine. But what spice might you use?" And they said, "Cinnamon." So I gave them the cinnamon jar. The cinnamon spice, they poured it all over 2 or 3 or 4 plates of, not plates, but pans.
Yeah.
And within a couple days, all the kale chips were gone. They ate them.
Yeah. So turning
Cinnamon,
a
amazing
difficult
spice.
kale experience for the kids into dried kale, and then letting them decide what spice to use, using cinnamon on it, which cinnamon is a magical spice. It's sweet. It's just, there's something about cinnamon. It's wonderful. You can overdo it, of course. You put too much on anything, it starts tasting bad. But a little bit of cinnamon goes a long way, and that's a great suggestion for kids. Yeah. Right.
I always like the message. I wish I would have known this when my kids were little. Is it's the parents' job to provide the healthy foods and the healthy choices. The kid's job is to know when and how much to eat.
Yes.
And if just knowing that would have made my life so much easier when my kids were little.
Yeah. Think about that. So Scott was saying, I'm saying it, repeating it for the people online, but the idea of just knowing the mantra of it's the parent's job to provide healthy food, and it's the child's job to eat, and how, when to eat, how much to eat. They should eat with the family, but that the idea of letting them decide how much to eat, it just takes a lot of stress out of your life. If you can live by the idea that you just provide them with healthy foods, and they're eating what the family's eating, they're enjoying food with you. Tremendous thing that we see in our culture, just messing up our eating experience. Yeah. Great. Other thoughts? Anything else? Boy, I really appreciate you guys being with me today, talking about this. It's great. Thank you so much. Anything else online? All right, great.
Next week is weight management, calorie density.
Weight management and calorie density, yeah, next week. All right, see you then. Thanks, Ed. I know it's challenging going between the videos. and presentation.
Good job. Yeah. Good job. Good job. It's a long evening party.
That bumbo is gonna be